Hey, motherfuckers, and welcome. And especially welcome if you are trans like me or you have ADHD like me. Hello. What am I doing here? What are any of us doing here? We don't know. Well, this is a sort of a reaction video, or is it an analysis video? I don't know. But anyway, this is not the kind of reaction video where I watch a Dimash tune that I've never seen before and pull faces of astonishment during the video, because there aren't any Dimash videos I haven't seen 1,000 times, because I'm a dear. I may have seen them tens of thousands, maybe millions, who knows. So I'm not going to do that. But one of the things I have noticed about people when they do reactions to Dimash is that they run out of things to say, because what he's doing is so extraordinary. Every single note, you could write a whole essay on every note he sings. And so you get a little way into the song and you've kind of said all the things you can possibly say, and so they just watch the rest with their mouths open in amazement, and sometimes they cry, and those are my favourite ones. But so I'm not going to do that here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one note, one glorious, spectacular, stupendously fucking beautiful note. And I'm going to tell you 5 things about it. And which note you cry, I'll tell you which note. It's that last note of Ave Maria. This one. Brace yourselves. Isn't that just absolutely the most ridiculously beautiful thing you ever heard in your life? I'll tell you what I particularly like about that clip is the look on Igor Krutoy, who's playing the piano and wrote the piece, is the look on his face during that clip, where to me it seems like he's thinking, what am I witnessing here? Anyway, so I've got 5 things to tell you about this note. And the first one, if I can find my notes, oh yes, tone. The tone of his voice, the sound of his instrument, this instrument here. Okay, so voices, you could compare voices to I don't know, violins. Okay, so, yes, violins. So, you could compare a human voice to a violin. And most of us have the kind of violin that you could buy in your high street music shop. It costs a few £100, and it sounds very nice, and you can do all kinds of interesting things with it. And in really skilled, well-trained hands, it can really be quite beautiful. But then there are an elite who play these special violins. They own violins that were made by top luthiers in little workshops. The kind of violins that would cost tens of thousands of pounds, and they have they sound a bit special. They have a lovely, rich, full, rounded, beautiful sound. The kind of violin you would see played by a top violinist in an orchestra, like the first violin or something. And then comes Stradivarius. You've heard of Stradivarius violins. They were made a couple of 100 years ago in Italy, and he did something that we don't understand. There is something magical about the sound of the Stradivarius. It cannot be replicated. Even with all the trappings of modern science, they can't make a violin that sounds as good as the ones he made in his little workshop all those years ago. And there's almost none of them in the world. There's a tiny handful of Stradivarius violins, and they have dramatic names like the Messiah, and well deserving they are of such drama, I feel. And you know where I'm going with this. Dimash's voice is a Stradivarius, and it doesn't matter how much you practice and how skilled you become as a singer. You can't change the instrument. You can make the very best of it by proper training, but you can never have a sound like a Dimash type sound. That's just him. I'm afraid it's just him. So that's the tone, and then I was going to talk about pitch. Yes, the pitch. So how high or low the note is. So that note, what note is it? Well, it's a C6, this note. And the first question is that high? Yes, it's very, very high indeed. To give you some perspective on this, so you know these terms from classical music like baritone, tenor, contralto and soprano. These are different ranges of voice, and so the deeper men's voice is the baritone, or indeed the bass, and then you have the higher men's voice, the tenor, and then the lower female voice, the contralto, and then you have the high female voice, the soprano. And the highest note that in the, pardon me, that's my lunch. It's disgusting, isn't it? What was I going to say? Losing track of my thoughts again. That's ADHD for you. Oh yeah, the highest note in the standard repertoire of a female soprano is, you guessed it, C6. And so it's a high note for a professional female singer, one that frightens them when they have to perform it live. And so that's pretty extraordinary in itself, given that Dimash has a broken voice. When I say broken voice, I mean he went through a testosterone puberty, which means his voice broke, and he should not be able to sing a C6. Not really. And there are notes. There are pieces where female sopranos are expected to go a little bit above C6. Famous ones like the Queen of the Night, but generally speaking, the top of the female range is C6, and Dimash is right up there, sounding exactly like they do. Except, does he really sound like they do? I mean, it's all very well to say, oh, he sounds like a female soprano, isn't that beautiful? But if he was actually stood next to a female soprano and you could hear her sing and then you heard him sing, would it really sound the same? Would you think, oh yeah, I mean, it's a good imitation of a female soprano, but it's not quite the same thing? No. I'm going to prove to you that it is the same. And here he is singing with a female soprano, and you're going to hear her voice first, and then you're going to hear his voice. Compare and contrast. See, it's all there, isn't it? There's no apparent difference. It's of equal quality. So yeah, this is extraordinary. And what was I going to talk about next? Hold on, where are my glasses? Ah yes, sustain. Sustain. The length of time he holds the note. Right, so he holds that note, that C6, for about 16 seconds. And that is crazy. And you see, the thing is, Dimash is not the only man who can sing a C6. There have been quite a few men who could hit a C6 in pop music. Prince, Paul McCartney. But when they do it, it's different to when Dimash does it. It's a much thinner sound, and it's not sustained. They can't stay there. They can't just go up to it and just stay there for as long as they like. And that is not to diminish what they do. I love both of those singers. They are both absolutely extraordinary. I'm a huge fan of both of them. So what I'm saying here is not to diminish what they do. It's to highlight how extraordinary what Dimash does is. Let me give you an example. Here's Paul McCartney hitting it's not a C6, it's just a little below that. I think it's a B flat 5. So that's C6. And he's there. I think it's that one. Have a listen. So you see he sweeps up to it, he hits it, but then he falls off. And it's a thinner tone. It doesn't sound like Dimash. It doesn't sound like a female soprano. It sounds like a man singing very, very high. And he can't hold it there because why? Because his vocal cords are so tight at that point. It's like a weightlifter lifting a very heavy weight. He can hold it above his head for a moment, but then has to drop it because the muscles cannot sustain that much tension for that long. But Dimash can just hold it as long as he likes, really, can't he? Till he suffocates, I suppose. No, don't do that. What was the other point? Number 4. I can't read it. I can't read it without my glasses. Oh yeah, volume. Volume. So, what you notice about Dimash's note is he gets louder and then he gradually gets quieter. This, in classical music, they call this messa di voce. Actually, if you're a singer yourself, this is a really good thing to practice because it really it teaches you control, voice control. Because what tends to happen is people try to sing louder, their pitch goes up. So you start to sing slightly sharp. And as you get quieter, your pitch goes down and you start to sing slightly flat. So the trick is to get louder and quieter without changing the pitch at all. And it's tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky at a pitch that you can sing comfortably. But to do that at C6 it's just stupid. Come on. And then that sort of brings me to the next point 5, the final point, and that's vibrato. So vibrato is the little wobbly bit you do on notes. And so Dimash is singing some of this straight without vibrato and some of it with vibrato, so he can just bring the vibrato in. This is not an unusual thing to do. It's quite common in popular music. You hit a long note and then you bring that in that wobble at the end. But to do it at C6, do you know what it's like? Imagine if I asked you to write your name on a piece of paper for me and to write it as beautifully as you can, okay? And then I gave you a pen that weighs, I don't know, 5 kilograms. And so your hand is so tense just trying to support the weight of the pen, your whole hand and forearm, that it's very, very difficult just to write your name at all, never mind write it beautifully. And this is what Dimash is doing. His vocal cords should be really, really tense at this point, right at their upper limit, and to then be able to just bring in a little vibrato, just as controlled as you like, and then, I don't know, just stop it, and then bring in a bit of volume, and just let it go again. This is what, when vocal coaches talk about Dimash and his vocal control, this is the kind of thing they're talking about. But to do that at that pitch, what can you say? There's nobody like him. Anyway, so those are 5 things that... Oh, do you know what? I thought of another thing. I think where he may well have got the inspiration for that last note. There's a Korean soprano called Sumi Jo, one of the world's top sopranos, and she's worked with Igor Krutoy quite a lot. Igor wrote Ave Maria and is the chap sitting at the piano there. And I found this clip of her, which Dimash is no doubt familiar with, because he will be very familiar with her work, and especially as he's a trained opera singer, so they all know the greats. And this is very remarkably similar to what he does. And I can't help feeling, okay, it's idle speculation, but I can't help feeling he watched this clip and thought, I'm going to do that at the end of a song. And, the fact that that's even an option for him is just crazy. But anyway, let me show you the clip. Here we go. Isn't that fucking gorgeous? So, but do you see how similar it is, even like in the hand movements? I don't mean he's copied her as such, but I feel that may have been an inspiration. And so anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I wonder if you enjoyed this in any way. If you did, you could always click on the like button. And better still, you could subscribe to me. I mean, please do that. Thank you. And I don't know if I'll do any more, but if you do like it, maybe I will find some more interesting things to say about music. In the meantime, if you want to hear me trying to sing a Dimash song, I did a cover of Love of Tired Swans, and that must be appearing on the screen at some point. So go on, watch it, And I'll tell you what, if you are a singer, do sing Dimash songs, because you won't be able to do it, but you will learn a hell of a lot about your voice by trying, and you will find your limits. So that's it from me. Goodbye, and thank you for watching, and be kind to somebody. Yes. Bye.